Welcome to the April 2024 edition of the Presale Pulse, a real estate show dedicated to everything happening in real estate across Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. I'm your host, Ksana Gonsalves. Joining me today is our Fraser Valley EVP Sales and Marketing co-host, hockey mom, soccer mom, chef, wife, the list goes on, Brittany Reimer.
Well, at least one of those things is definitely not true, Suze. We'll let everybody else figure out which one that is. Today we're filming at the new Amson Bloc Sales Gallery by Amson Group. Just a couple of weeks ago, the team hosted a stunning event drawing a remarkable turnout.
Yeah, it was buzzing in here, Britt. Surrey might be the new metro town with all of the activity happening in the area, and so no surprise Amson Bloc was as busy as it was.
Definitely exciting to see what's in store for this project and the surrounding area. Amson Bloc will offer residents amenity-rich buildings with modern 1 to 3 bedroom condos tucked away in a quiet, well-maintained street located on the cusp of Panorama and Sullivan Heights, a neighborhood with a legacy and care for beauty. Stay tuned for a more detailed breakdown in our project in the Fraser Valley Presale Pulse episode.
Yeah, it looks great in here.
Okay, Suze, so let's dive into it. Let's talk about it, the good and the bad. How's the macro looking as of April 2024?
Well, over 2 years into this rate cycle, and it is still the hottest topic. We had another Bank of Canada rate hold announcement just yesterday morning, but if you remember, back at the beginning of the year, some were calling for cuts as of this April announcement, and many suggesting a foregone conclusion that we would see several rate cuts this year.
Oh boy, you're not suggesting that has changed, are you, Suze?
We know, I think there's still a lot of hope, and I would say expectation by many that we will see cuts this year. In the announcement yesterday, it was promising to hear the Bank of Canada suggest that we are essentially where we need to be, but that we need to see the current data stay at this level for a little longer to ensure we have hit our mark, because they don't want to, of course, cut prematurely and take some backward steps. Ironically, our gas prices are pulling inflation up, thank you carbon tax, and as we know, shelter costs also continue to have an impact. So there is hope. But if we've learned anything these past few years, and to quote Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And so all forecasts should be looked at a bit cautiously. It's hard to predict exactly which announcement will come with cuts. Expectations for a June cut fell from 84% to only 56%. Now, the same is happening south of the border. Case in point, the Minneapolis federal chair, one of the decision makers on the U.S. rate side of things, came out last week saying he sees possibility of no cuts at all this year.
Let's recall that analysts in the U.S. were pricing in as many as 7 cuts at the beginning of this year. 7. Now that has shrunk to just 1 or 2 cuts, as we know.
Yeah, and that's exactly my point, Britt. We have to watch our assumptions carefully in this market. I'll say that Canada is different from the U.S. and more positive so far. Our inflation data has been decreasing to acceptable levels more, and the elevated interest rates are having their effect and having a heavier burden on the Canadian economy than the U.S. That means we will likely see more cuts and earlier in Canada. But again, still a little murky out there for those that want to make predictions.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Suze. Thank you for mentioning that. As you mentioned, we just came off our most recent BOC meeting in which we saw no changes to the rates. The next one is slated for June 5th, which will be an important one for us all to be watching.
So 2 key takeaways here. There are some rumblings in the U.S. markets that interest rates may not come down as quickly as previously expected. The Bank of Canada again held rates in April at 5%. The next meeting is on June 5th, the first of summer meetings in which analysts had previously speculated may kick off rate cuts. My fingers are crossed. So let's shift into the presale now.
My favorite part. So the spring has sprung. We're now at what is typically the busiest time of the year for the presale market. So, Suze, what's going on?
Well, the spring market is here. 11 presale projects came to market, releasing 1,200 units.
Yeah, how does that compare to last year?
Good question. In March of 2023, there were only 3 programs that brought just about 500 units to market. So just over 3 times as much launched year over year.
Yeah, and sales absorptions increased from about 150 sales to just over 400 sales in 2024. Same month absorptions this month was 27%.
Yeah, and truthfully, 27% is a little lower than where we would like to see it. As more inventory is coming and things get more competitive, many developers have been offering strong incentives out of the gate, and early sales success hasn't been consistent across programs. With that said, early successes have included projects such as Ledgeview 2, which began writing at the end of March.
Yeah, so this is a Quadra homes project that launched in the northern half of Surrey City Centre. They achieved over 180 deals in the first month of sales, about 60% of their inventory. Now, price point is a really big factor for this project, $890 for price per square foot, and the 5% deposits that we're talking about last month, that's a deadly combination.
Yeah. Now, with that said, what can we look forward to in April, do you think?
Yeah, so we're forecasting 10 presale projects in April that will bring just under 2,000 units to market. That's a lot. That's
a lot.
At the same time. Yeah, that's a lot of inventory. Concrete south of the Fraser, Parksville 96 and Parkway have already begun writing. Now, Parksville came out packing with their sales launch. Their marketing is everywhere. And the Mercedes that they've been offering for their top realtor doesn't look too shabby either. It is matte black, which is pretty cool. Stay tuned as we look forward to sharing more information on these projects soon. Now, what's really interesting to kind of talk about, Suze, is like there's a lot of hype and fluff right now in the market on marketing campaigns, but I'm not sure exactly how that's going to translate to absorption. And I think that's what we'll have to report back on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, your comment about deposit and price point, that is the deadly combination. Yeah. And so no surprise that they've done well. And for programs that aren't able to sort of pull that together for a whole host of reasons, they're the ones that are struggling a bit more. And we're seeing that inconsistency across those early pre-sale numbers. Absolutely.
So to conclude our presale segment, we are seeing a bit of optimism in the market, particularly as we look to the fall and potentially the rate cuts, considering we saw 3 times as many inventory launches in March of 2024 as compared to the same time as last year. Now, people are wanting to get into the market as it potentially improves throughout the latter part of this year.
All right, it's time to move on to some project features now. Let's begin with Ksana, a new development consisting of 2 6-story wood frame buildings in the heart of Port Moody. Ksana will be bringing a collection of 1 to 3 bedroom homes into the neighborhood.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we've seen any new development activity in Port Moody.
Yeah, you're right. The last project we saw launch in Port Moody was Portwood back in April 2023. So it's basically been a full year since we saw something new there.
Yeah, it's always interesting when a new development launches in an area that hasn't seen a lot of pre-sale activity in a while. It becomes difficult to gauge for developers' interest before launching, as they have no other projects to really base that demand and interest on, specifically for absorption.
Yeah, now on one hand, it can be a positive as there's less competition in the area. But on the other hand, it can be a bit more of an unknown.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention, it's a lot easier to fall off the radar when you are the only project in a slower market compared to, say, Burnaby or West Coquitlam, which have been seeing multiple launches and garnering lots of attention for purchasers everywhere.
Yeah. Burning those media dollars when you're by yourself. Although this strategy did work out well for Town and Centre, they were basically the only pre-sale to launch in Coquitlam City Centre in years. And I think the rarity of the project really did turn some heads and garner a lot of interest.
Yeah, absolutely. And although I would like to add that Town and Centre was by Mosaic, who obviously has a great track record in Vancouver and a big following, taking a look at Vansoho, it looks like they have a few upcoming projects in the pipeline as well. They also have experience with single-family homes and a development in Kelowna that featured only studio homes, apparently. If they were able to build an entire 5-story residential building in Kelowna dedicated to 99 studio apartments, I'm excited to see if they'll be offering some really smart and efficient compact plans as well at Ksana.
Okay, let's move on to our next project, which is not too far away from Ksana, coming up in Coquitlam City Centre on the back of Town and Centre by Mosaic. Pine and Glen by Onni is anticipated to launch this spring.
Now, Pine and Glen is expected to consist of over 700 homes spread between 2 high-rise towers standing at 50 and 45 stories, respectively. This development will bring a mix of 1-bed, junior 2-bed, and 2-bed to 3-bedroom homes into this neighborhood.
Yeah, this development has a bit of an interesting past.
Yeah, you got that right, Sue. Now, Pine and Glen was originally introduced way back in 2021 and began taking registrations, but then sort of fell off the radar at that point.
Yeah, there wasn't much activity in that area during the time, and I think there were even talks to converting this into a rental building at one stage.
Yeah, that's also what I heard. It seems now that Onni is fully committed to a strata condo, as they have announced that Pine and Glen will be launching in spring of 2024, and they've begun previewing and some releasing of some marketing assets into the market.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this decision has come to the market now was influenced by the success we all witnessed with Town and Centre.
Absolutely. Like we had mentioned earlier, it's always tough for a developer to gauge that interest and demand in a market where there's little activity. So with Mosaic dipping their toes in the water, we saw positive results, and now other developers are really feeling confident and they're going to follow suit.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, basically all of Town and Centre studios and 1-bedrooms were sold within the first few weeks of contract writing. So this probably means that there were some purchasers who didn't get the studio 1-bed that they were hoping for, and now that Coquitlam City Centre is on their radar, they may very well gravitate towards Pine and Glen.
That is definitely a possibility. I am noticing that Pine and Glen isn't offering any studios, though. Do you think that that's a miss on their part from a product design perspective?
I mean, time will tell. Lately, people have been trying to stretch to that one bedroom if they can because of the functionality and access to parking. But we also know end price point matters. So although they don't have a true studio, they have some compact one bedrooms under 500 square feet. So I think those homes with a sharp price point could perform quite well, especially in that market.
Yeah, I had a quick glance at their floor plans, and it does look like they have a pretty good spread. They have some more compact one beds and junior 2-bedroom homes that will probably appeal for more of that investor buyer demographic. They're also offering some more spacious plans as well that will increase livability and suit more of the end users.
Yeah, and it seems they are definitely trying to hit both demographics. I'll also add that they are offering full-size appliances for their junior 2 beds. Oftentimes, developers will stick to a 24-inch appliance in these units to save space, but I think it really increases the livability of these units when the appliance sizes are maximized, and they're using that, I think, to differentiate themselves.
Yeah, also a really big amenity package here, over 70,000 of indoor and outdoor amenity space, including an outdoor pool, indoor pool, a multi-sport court, outdoor theater, and a bowling alley.
Yeah, definitely impressive. Sounds like they must be giving those developments in Burnaby a run for their money with an amenity package like that.
Yeah, I hope they're paying us for this ad too.
Yeah. Now let's move on to some resale stats. How is March looking for Greater Vancouver, Britt?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot more activity compared to the previous month. But when we dig a little bit deeper into those stats compared to the numbers and historical 10-year averages, we are actually still 31% below the 10-year average.
Yeah, good flag. If we are only focusing on the immediate months, it definitely looks like the market is improving at 2,415 sales, up from the 2,000 sales in February. But we actually have a bit more work to do before we are back to sort of a more active and robust market. It seems like a bit of a different story for the number of active listings we're seeing in Greater Vancouver, though.
Yeah, we saw just over 10,000 active listings for the month of March. Not only was this a 23% increase from this time last year, but we are actually 6% above the 10-year seasonal average.
Yeah, with so many active listings right now and lower than average sales activity, does this mean we're beginning to enter a buyer's market?
Not exactly, Suze. It is quite a tricky dynamic in the market right now. We can see that of the 10,000 active listings in March, only about half of those were newly listed, which is actually 9% below what is normally newly listed in this March of last year. This suggests that many of the 10,000 active listings are actually sales that may not be priced right. However, new listings that are priced right are seeing quite a bit of activity in the market.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of old listings that are still there. Now, we can see that the sales to listing ratios for March stands at about 24%, but when we look specifically at townhomes, the ratio stands at 36% and 26% for condos, meaning we are still in a seller's market by traditional definitions. In our market, however, we kind of want to see above 30% for it to feel strong. So what do you think all this means for prices, Brett?
Yeah, so the benchmark prices for homes are continuing to steadily increase. Compared to the previous month, benchmark prices have increased by 1.1% and now stands at 5.2% below peak prices recorded in April of 2022.
Now, to summarize, both sales and listings saw increases in March, although sales remain below the 10-year average. Despite this, demand absorbed this new supply, leading the market to shift from a balanced state to technically a seller's market. Consequently, there were marginal increases in pricing on a monthly basis.
Yeah. So, Suze, I believe this wraps this month's edition of the Presale Pulse. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out our daily newswire, a roundup of all the news in the world of real estate.
Yeah, thanks for joining us at the stunning new Amson Bloc Presentation Center by Amson Developments. Be sure to drop by for a visit with the sales team soon, and we'll see you next month.